of inverter do you need? This is probably a question you've been asking yourself, and I'm here to respond to that. This is peak power versus typical or average. An inverter needs to supply two things: peak or surge, and the typical or average power. Surge is the maximum power that an inverter can supply, usually for a short time, maybe 15 seconds to 15 minutes. Some appliances, particularly those that use electric motors, need a higher startup surge than they do when running. Pumps are the most common example, and another common example is the refrigerator that uses a compressor. The typical is what an inverter supplies on a steady basis. This is a continuous rating, and it is usually much lower than the surge. For example, this is what a refrigerator would pull for the first few seconds that it takes its motor to start up, or what it takes to start up the microwave, or what all loads combined will total up to. You can go see our notes about appliance power and name tag ratings at the end of this section. Now down to average power. Average power is usually much less than typical, and it is usually not a factor in choosing an inverter. If you run a pump for 20 minutes and a small TV for 20 minutes during a 1 hour period, the average might be only 300 watts, even though the pump requires 2000 watts. Therefore, average power is only useful when estimating battery capacity needed. Inverters must be sized for the maximum peak load and the typical continuous load. So the power ratings of inverters. Inverters come in size ratings all the way from 50 watts to 50,000 watts. Although units larger than 11,000 watts are seldom used in households or other PV systems. The first thing you need to know about an inverter is what would be the maximum surge and for how long. Let's move to surge. All inverters have continuous ratings and surge ratings. The surge rating is usually specified at so many watts for so many seconds. This means that an inverter would handle an overload of that many watts for a short period of time. The surge capacity would vary considerably between inverters, different types of inverters, and even within the same brand. It may range from as little as 20% to as much as 300%. Generally, a 3 to 15% surge rating is enough to cover 99% of appliances. And the motor in a pump may only surge for only half a second or so. The general rule is the inverters with the lowest rating are the high-speed electronic switching types, the common ones. These are typically from 25% to 50% maximum overload. This includes most inverters made by Start Power, Cotec, Exeltec, Power2Go, Focus, SolArc, and mostly all the inexpensive inverters in the 50 to 5,000 watts range. The highest surge ratings are the transformer-based low-frequency switchers, and this includes most Schneider, Magnum, etc. Surge ratings on this can range up to 300% for short periods, while high-frequency switching allows a much smaller and lighter unit. Due to the much smaller transformers used, it also reduces the surge or peak capacity. And then we have the pros and cons. Although the high-frequency switching type doesn't have the surge capacity of the transformer-based, they do have some definite advantages. They are much lighter, usually a bit smaller, especially in the lower power ranges. They are much cheaper. However, if you want to run something like a submersible well pump, you will need either very high surge capacity or you will need to oversize the inverter above its typical usage, so that even at maximum surge, the inverter would not exceed surge rating. Well, that will be all for today. If you want to learn more, which I know you want to learn more, what you have to do, click on the follow button.